A queen who was never meant to fall survived, when her own people could not touch her. The impossible happened because one human ignored every rule and used the one thing aliens don't understand. How that choice rewrote an empire starts now. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel to help it grow. This story is about to start. The desert turned gold as Matthew Hale watched sunrise through the windshield, his right hand pressing against his chest where the ache lived. Not today, he thought. Not during the shift. At 45, Matthew had learned to negotiate with his body. The heart medication rattled in his jacket pocket as he pulled into the diplomatic complex parking lot, a sound he'd become expert at hiding. Emma Chen, the protocol coordinator, waved from the entrance with her tablet already glowing. "Morning, Matt. Big day." She handed him an earpiece and a laminated badge. "Kelrin delegation. Royal visit. You know the drill." Matthew clipped the badge to his worn jacket. The drill meant silence, invisibility, and driving whoever needed transport without asking questions. He'd carried wounded soldiers through mortar fire once. Now he carried diplomats through air-conditioned hallways. The irony wasn't lost on him. "One thing," Emma said, lowering her voice, "they have strict physical contact protocols. Zero touch. Not even handshakes. Understood." Dr. Vec, a Thurian medical officer with crystalline skin, brushed past them without acknowledgement. Matthew had driven him twice before. The alien never said thank you. Never said anything, really. Just stared at humans like they were furniture that occasionally moved. The briefing room filled with tension as the Kelrin advance team outlined requirements. No direct eye contact with the Queen, no unsolicited speech. Maintain 3 meters distance at all times. Matthew listened, noting the fear beneath their formality. These weren't guidelines. These were prayers. "Why all the rules?" Emma whispered. "Control," Matthew replied. "When you build a culture on never showing weakness, you need a lot of rules." The convoy arrived at noon. 6 black vehicles, windows tinted, moving in perfect formation. They stopped with military precision, and for a moment nothing happened. Then the center door opened. Queen Alira Ethkale stepped into New Mexico's sunlight, and the air changed. She was beautiful in a way that made Matthew's chest tighten for reasons that had nothing to do with his failing heart. Blue-gray skin smooth as river stones, silver eyes that seemed to catalog everything they touched, posture so perfect it looked painful. She wore deep purple robes that moved like water, and a crown so subtle it took him a moment to notice it wasn't a crown at all, but some kind of neural interface woven through her dark hair. Her guards flanked her immediately. 8 of them, faces identical in their lack of expression. One younger guard, though, his eyes kept moving, watching everything. Watching her, Matthew felt the pressure in his chest spike as Alira Eth's gaze swept the greeting party. Her eyes passed over Emma, over the human delegation, over the complex itself, and for just a fraction of a second, locked with his. He didn't look away. She did. And Matthew's heart, that treacherous failing thing, skipped a beat that had nothing to do with disease. Emma touched his arm. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," he lied, reaching for the medication in his pocket and finding only lint. He'd forgotten to refill the prescription. Again. The Queen moved toward the complex entrance, her guards maintaining perfect distance, and Matthew noticed something the others missed. She swayed slightly, just a millimeter, before her posture locked rigid again. Whatever was happening, it had already begun. "Matt," Emma said, checking her tablet. "You're assigned to her personal transport. Anything she needs. Anywhere she needs to go." Matthew nodded, watching the Queen disappear into the building, surrounded by people who would die for her but never touch her. He'd carried a lot of people in his life. Something told him this would be different. The diplomatic meeting lasted 4 hours. Matthew waited in the designated driver's lounge, watching security feeds on muted monitors. The Kelrins sat rigid as statues while human negotiators gestured and smiled. 2 species speaking the same language, but living in different universes. Emma stormed in around hour 3, her professional calm cracked. They treat us like we're not even there, like we're the help. We are the help, Matthew said quietly. You know what I mean. She dropped into a chair. That counselor, Threnak? He actually recoiled when I handed him a document, like I was contaminated. Matthew had seen it before. Species that built their identity on superiority needed someone to look down on. Humans, with their messy emotions and soft bodies, made convenient targets. His comm crackled. Driver Hale, please report to VIP quarters. The Queen requests transport to her rooms. Matthew found her in the corridor outside the conference room, alone except for 2 guards stationed exactly 3 meters away. Up close, Al-Raith was even more striking and more fragile than he'd realized. Her skin had a translucent quality, like she was made of something finer than flesh. I can walk, she said, voice musical but cold. You will simply ensure the path is clear. Yes, ma'am. They took the elevator in silence. Matthew stood in the corner, giving her space, watching the floor numbers climb. He could feel her presence like static electricity, could hear the carefully controlled rhythm of her breathing. You looked at me, she said suddenly. Earlier, humans are instructed not to do that. I was instructed not to stare, Matthew replied. Looking is different. Is it? One is rude, the other is just seeing someone. The elevator hummed. Al-Raith's reflection in the polished doors showed nothing. No reaction, no emotion. But her hands, clasped in front of her, trembled so slightly that only someone trained to spot shock would notice. Are you feeling all right, ma'am? I do not require your concern. The elevator stopped. Matthew held the door, maintaining his distance as she stepped out. She made it 3 steps before her leg buckled. She caught herself on the wall, breathing hard, and Matthew saw terror flash across her face before the mask returned. Her guards hadn't moved. They stood frozen, waiting for permission to act that their protocols wouldn't let them give. Ma'am, I can call medical. No. The word was steel. I require nothing. Dismissed. Matthew hesitated, then nodded and returned to the elevator. The doors closed on the image of a queen trying to stand straight, while her body betrayed her. His shift ended at 9. He was halfway to his car when his comm erupted with priority alerts. Security feeds showed the East Wing corridor, empty except for a single figure on the floor. Queen Al-Raith Kale had fallen, and she couldn't get up. Matthew ran. He found her conscious, eyes wide, silver gaze tracking his approach. She was trying to speak, but her voice came out in broken fragments. Her neural crown pulsed erratically, and her perfectly controlled expression had shattered into raw fear. Don't, she managed. Don't touch. Matthew knelt 3 feet away, assessing. Neuromuscular failure. Progression rapid. Vital signs stable but deteriorating. She was dying by degrees, and her own culture's rules were killing her faster than the disease. I need to get you to medical, he said calmly. Cannot. Protocol. Cannot be touched by Her breathing hitched. By inferior species? Matthew finished. Yeah, I got that part. Here's the thing, Your Majesty. I'm a medic. Was a medic, and right now, you need help. No. But her eyes said yes. Begged yes. You're strong, Matthew said, moving closer, but not alone. You don't have to be alone. He saw her try to activate her neural authority, felt the wave of projected fear designed to make him back away. It washed over him like cold water, but Matthew had been afraid before, had operated on dying soldiers while mortars fell. Fear was just another thing to work through. That won't work on me, he said quietly. I've already decided. And then Matthew Hale did the unthinkable. He slipped his arms under her knees and shoulders, lifted her against his chest and stood. The weight was brutal. His heart hammered against his ribs, each beat a negotiation with muscle that might quit. But he didn't put her down. Somewhere behind him, a Kelran guard made a sound like breaking glass. Matthew had carried wounded through worse conditions. Sandstorms in Syria, collapsing buildings in Jakarta. But those people wanted to be saved. Eliraeth trembled in his arms, and he couldn't tell if it was from the neuromuscular failure or the absolute humiliation of being held by something she'd been taught to consider beneath her. Her silver eyes locked on his face, wide and desperate and furious. "Put me down," she whispered. "Medical 60 meters," Matthew replied, adjusting his grip. "Then I'll put you down." Her guards finally moved, creating a barrier between Matthew and the corridor. But none of them touched their weapons. They looked lost. One of them, the younger guard with the watchful eyes, stepped forward. "Human," he said. "She is our queen. We should carry her." "Then why aren't you?" Matthew kept walking. Each step sent pain lancing through his chest. "Your protocols won't let you. Mine will." Emma appeared at the medical bay entrance, eyes wide. "Matt, what the hell?" "Clear a bed. Neuromuscular failure. Rapid progression. I need Dr. Vec now." But Dr. Vec stood in the doorway, blocking entry. "Kaelrin, medical authority supersedes human intervention. Put her down." "Move," Matthew said. "Their customs require—" "I don't care about customs. Move, or I move you." Emma pulled Vec aside, and Matthew carried Eliraeth into the pristine medical bay. He laid her on the diagnostic bed with the same care he'd use with spun glass, making sure her head was supported, that her robes weren't tangled. "Stay still," he said. "Let them work." Her hand caught his wrist. The touch was weak, but deliberate. "Why?" Matthew looked at her, really looked. Beneath the crown and the authority and the perfect skin was just someone who hurt. Someone who'd fallen and couldn't get up. Someone who was scared. "Because you needed help," he said, "and I was there." Then the world tilted. Matthew's heart, that failing muscle he'd been ignoring for too long, finally demanded payment. The pain was sudden and absolute. He staggered, caught the edge of the bed, and felt his knees give out. Emma's voice from very far away. "Matt! Matt!" The last thing he saw before the darkness was Eliraeth trying to sit up, reaching for him with shaking hands, her voice cutting through the fog. "Don't leave him. Save him. That is an order." Then nothing. He woke to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of monitors. Emma sat in the chair beside him, eyes red. "You've been out for 6 hours. They had to restart your heart twice." Matthew tried to speak, managed to croak. "The Queen's stable," Emma said, answering the question he hadn't asked. "Whatever's wrong with her, it's genetic. Old family curse kind of thing. She'll need stasis treatment on her ship, but she's alive, because of you." "And because you called the doctors," Matthew whispered. "Matt, you're not cleared for field work. Haven't been for 3 years. Your heart can't take that kind of stress." Emma's voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me it was that bad? Would you have let me work?" "No. That's why." Footsteps in the corridor. The young Kaelrin guard appeared in the doorway, hesitant. "The human who carried our queen. He lives." "He lives," Emma said coldly. "No thanks to your medical protocols." The guard's face did something complicated. "I am Kaelrin. I serve Her Majesty's personal guard." He looked at Matthew directly. "Why did you do it? You could have died." Matthew thought about it. "I've been where she was, knowing you're falling and can't stop it. Knowing everyone's watching but no one's helping. It's worse than dying. We would have helped. Eventually. Once permission was granted. Eventually isn't fast enough when someone's drowning." Kaelrin was quiet for a long moment. "You are not what we were told humans are." "What were you told?" "Weak. Emotional. Unreliable." He touched his chest, a gesture that looked almost human. "But you carried her when we could not. You nearly died for it. That is not weakness." "It's just human," Matthew said. Kaelrin nodded slowly and left. Emma waited until his footsteps faded. The Kaelrin counselor Threnak is demanding the security footage be erased. Says what happened violates their sovereign dignity. He wants you fired and formally censured. Let him. Matt, there's more. Emma's voice dropped. Whatever the Queen has, it's killing her. The genetic damage is progressing faster than Earth's gravity. She needs to get to orbit for stasis within 48 hours, or she dies. And the Kelrans are in chaos because admitting she needs help means admitting their whole culture is built on a lie. Matthew closed his eyes. Somewhere in this building, a queen who'd been taught she was above needing anyone was dying because her pride had become a prison. What does she want? He asked. Emma smiled sadly. She wants you to drive her to the ship. Then I'll drive her. Matt, your heart still works, he interrupted. For now. That's all that matters. In a room 3 floors above, Elira Hethkale lay in medical stasis, her silver eyes open, staring at nothing. But her hand, lying on the white sheets, was still warm where a human had touched her. Matthew was released from medical against doctor's orders and his own better judgment. The portable heart monitor strapped to his chest beeped softly, a mechanical reminder that his body was now a negotiation, not a certainty. Emma met him in the corridor with coffee and fury. The Kelran medical team is refusing to treat her properly. They need formal authorization from their council to proceed with emergency stasis, and the council is deadlocked. Half of them think letting her die is better than admitting weakness exists in the royal bloodline. They'd rather she die than look bad? It's not about looking bad. It's about their whole identity. Emma pulled up files on her tablet. The Kelrans built an empire on genetic superiority and emotional control. If their queen has a hereditary weakness, it means their entire species is vulnerable. They're terrified. Matthew took the coffee, feeling the warmth against his palms. Where is she now? VIP suite, under guard. Threnak posted additional security to make sure no humans get near her. Emma's voice dropped. Matt, he's planning something. I don't have proof, but I've seen that look before. He wants you gone. Then he should try harder. They found Kelran instead, standing watch outside a maintenance corridor, his posture rigid, but his eyes troubled. When he saw Matthew, something in his expression shifted. The human who carries, he said. It wasn't quite a greeting. Just Matthew. Just Matthew. Kelran tested the words. I must ask you something. When you held Her Majesty, did you fear her? Should I have? All beings fear the Kelran Queen. Her neural authority can collapse the will of entire crowds. She can make you feel terror so deep you forget your own name. He paused. But you carried her anyway. I felt it, Matthew admitted. The fear, but I've felt worse. And she needed help more than I needed to be comfortable. Kelran's hand moved to his chest again, that almost human gesture. In my culture, we are taught that to need is to fail. To accept help is to admit unworthiness. But I have watched Her Majesty for 7 years, and I have never seen her look at anyone the way she looked at you when you would not leave her. How did she look? Like she was drowning and you were air. Emma's comm buzzed. She's awake, and she's asking for you. Matthew found Illyriath sitting upright in her quarters, still wearing the medical monitors, her crown removed for the first time since he'd met her. Without it, she looked younger, vulnerable. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders, and her silver eyes tracked his approach with an intensity that made his borrowed heart stutter. You nearly died, she said. No greeting, no preamble. So did you. I am accustomed to nearly dying. It has been my companion since childhood. She stood, swaying slightly. You are not. Yet you risked everything to carry me 47 meters to medical. 60, Matthew corrected. It was 60 meters. You counted? I count everything when I'm scared. That stopped her. She stared at him, silver eyes wide. You were afraid. Terrified of dropping you, of my heart giving out, of getting it wrong. Matthew moved closer, carefully, like approaching a wild thing. But that's the thing about being human. We're scared all the time. We just do it anyway. Illyriath was quiet for a long moment. Then she extended her hand, palm up. The gesture was small but deliberate. Matthew looked at her hand, at the faint tremor in her fingers, at the vulnerability in that simple offering. He took her hand carefully, feeling how cold her skin was, how delicate the bones beneath. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "The condition that causes this, it killed my sister. She was younger than me, stronger perhaps, but she fell during a state ceremony, and by the time the council authorized treatment, it was too late. I was 12. I watched her die while protocols were observed. I'm sorry. I swore I would never be weak like her, never need anyone, never fall." Her fingers tightened on his. "And then I fell anyway, and a human caught me." Footsteps in the hallway. Elirath pulled her hand back just as Threnak entered, his expression carved from ice. "Your Majesty, this human's presence violates security protocols. He must leave immediately." "He stays," Elirath said, her voice returning to its royal register. "I require his services as my personal driver. He will transport me to the orbital shuttle when the time comes." "Absolutely not. The risk is mine to take. Counselor, you are dismissed." Threnak's face did something ugly. "As you command, Your Majesty. But know that the Council has concerns about your judgment, about your fitness to continue leading." He glanced at Matthew with open contempt, "especially given your recent associations." When he left, the room felt colder. "He's going to make this difficult," Matthew said. Elirath smiled, thin and sharp. "Counselor Threnak has been making things difficult since before you were born, but he forgets something important." "What's that?" "I am still queen, and I just gave you an order." Outside, Kaelrin leaned against the wall, thinking about the human who wasn't weak despite being terrified, and the queen who was falling despite all her strength. And he touched the place over his heart where his own genetic curse waited, silent and patient, for the day it would demand payment too. The diplomatic meetings resumed the next morning, but everything had changed. Word of what happened had spread through both delegations, carried on whispers and carefully worded reports. The human team looked at Matthew differently now, part respect, part concern. The Kaelrins looked at him like he was a bomb that might go off. Emma found him in the parking garage, checking the vehicle he'd used to transport Elirath. "The Council is meeting an emergency session. Threnak's pushing for immediate departure without proper medical clearance." "Can they do that?" "If they vote to override the Queen's authority, yeah." Emma's fingers flew over her tablet. "Matt, they're scared. Not of her dying, of what it means if she lives by accepting human help." Inside the conference room, Elirath sat at the head of the table, her crown back in place, her posture perfect. But Matthew, watching from the security feed, saw the cost. The way her hands gripped the armrests, the micro-tremors in her shoulders. Threnak stood. "Your Majesty, the Council respectfully requests you authorize immediate departure. Earth's gravity continues to deteriorate your condition." "I am aware of my condition, Counselor." "Then you understand that further delay risks not just your life, but the stability of our entire civilization. If you were to die here, in the care of humans—" "I will not die." Elirath's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "And I will depart when I deem appropriate." Matthew felt it then, even through the screen. The wave of her neural power washing over the room, forcing calm, demanding compliance. The council members relaxed despite themselves, tensions easing, protests dying. Emma's hand found his arm. "Did you feel that?" "Yeah." Matthew's heart monitor beeped faster. "She's using her power." "Is that bad?" "For her? Probably." The meeting ended an hour later with Elirath victorious, the council subdued, and Threnak's expression promising future complications. Emma pulled Matthew aside as the delegates filed out. "Okay, that was impressive, but something's wrong. Dr. Vec just sent me this." She showed him a medical scan. "Every time she uses her neural authority, it accelerates the genetic damage. Her power is literally killing her faster. Matthew stared at the readings. Does she know? If she does, she doesn't care. She'd rather burn out than show weakness. He found her in the garden courtyard, sitting alone on a stone bench, her crown removed again. The afternoon sun caught her silver eyes, making them almost luminous. You shouldn't have used your power, Matthew said, sitting down a careful distance away. You presume to instruct your queen? I presume to speak to someone who's hurting herself to prove a point. Aliraeth was quiet. Then, when my sister died, the council used it as evidence that our bloodline was tainted, that I might carry the same weakness. I have spent 30 years proving them wrong. I cannot stop now. Even if it kills you. Oh, especially then, better to die strong than live weak. Matthew wanted to argue, to tell her that strength and weakness weren't opposites, that surviving took more courage than dying proud. But before he could speak, his heart monitor screamed. Emma burst into the courtyard. Matt, sit down. Now. I'm fine. You're not fine. Your arrhythmia's spiking. She pulled out her medical kit, hands shaking. Why didn't you refill your prescription? Why are you even here? Because she needs someone. She has a whole planet of someone's. Who won't touch her? Matthew said quietly. Who won't even look at her like she's real? Aliraeth stood abruptly. This is my fault. Your condition. It worsened because you carried me. Who? My condition worsened because I've been ignoring it for 3 years. Nevertheless, she looked at Emma. What does he require? Rest, medication, and to stop playing hero with a failing heart. That won't happen, Matthew said. I'm still driving you to the shuttle. You will not. I forbid it. Good thing I don't work for you. Matthew met her eyes. I work for the diplomatic service, and they assigned me to this transport. Threnek appeared in the courtyard entrance, his timing too perfect to be coincidence. Your Majesty, I have urgent news from the homeworld. Medical analysis of your genetic markers has been completed. And? The defect is confirmed hereditary. All carriers of the royal bloodline are at risk. He paused, including every member of the extended family, every potential heir. The council estimates 47 individuals may share your condition. The color drained from Aliraeth's face. 47. If news of this spreads, it could destabilize the entire succession. The opposition factions would use it as proof the royal family is unfit to lead. Threnek's voice softened, almost gentle. Your Majesty, you must return immediately. Enter stasis before anyone discovers the truth. Let us manage this quietly. Manage it how? However necessary. Matthew understood then. They didn't want her treated. They wanted her silenced. Locked away in stasis indefinitely while they figured out how to handle a crisis that threatened their entire power structure. No, Aliraeth said. Your Majesty, I said no. I will return to orbit in 48 hours as planned, not before. With respect, you may not have 48 hours. Then I suggest, Aliraeth said, her voice ice, that you work quickly. Threnek bowed stiffly and left. Emma packed up her medical kit. Matt, I'm officially ordering you to medical observation. If you won't think of yourself, think of me. I can't watch another person I care about kill themselves for duty. He wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that duty was the only thing he had left that made sense. But Emma's eyes were wet, and his heart monitor was still screaming, and Aliraeth was looking at him like he was already gone. Okay, he said. Okay. That night, Matthew lay in medical while Emma slept in the chair beside him, exhausted from arguing with doctors. His comm buzzed with a private message. From Aliraeth. They were right about one thing. You should not die for me. I am not worth it. Matthew typed back with shaking hands. That's not for you to decide. The response came immediately. Then I order you to live. Orders don't work on me, remember? A long pause. Then, what does work on you? Matthew thought about it. Thought about all the people he'd carried, all the weight he'd shouldered, all the miles walked when his body begged to stop. Someone needing me to, he wrote. That's all. Just someone who needs me to keep going. The response was a single word. Please. And Matthew, despite everything, smiled. Matthew woke to alarms. Not his heart monitor. Not medical alerts. Building wide emergency sirens that meant something had gone catastrophically wrong. Emma was already moving, grabbing her tablet, her face pale. The Kael'ren medical systems just went offline. Someone sabotaged them. Where's the Queen? Her suite, under lockdown. Emma pulled up security feeds. Matt, the medical equipment they need for emergency stasis, it's been tampered with. If she crashes now, there's nothing to save her. Matthew was out of bed before his brain caught up with his body, ripping off monitor leads, ignoring Emma's protests. His heart hammered irregularly, but it was still beating. That was enough. They found Kael'ren in the corridor, standing alone, his weapon drawn but pointing at the floor. When he saw Matthew, something in his expression cracked. I cannot let you pass, he said. But he stepped aside anyway. Aliraeth sat on the floor of her suite, not from weakness, but from choice, her back against the wall, her crown in her hands. She looked up when Matthew entered, and her eyes were raw. My sister's name was Lyra Esh, she said quietly. I never told you that. Never told anyone, really. After she died, the council ordered her name removed from official records. Too much weakness associated with it. Matthew sat down across from her, careful to maintain distance. Tell me about her. She was 4 years younger, brilliant, kind. She wanted to be a musician, but royal blood meant military service. She lasted 3 years before her body gave out during a parade. The council made me watch her die, said it would teach me the cost of dependence. Aliraeth's hands shook. I learned the lesson well. Too well, perhaps. That's why you built your whole culture around never needing anyone. Not just me, all of us. The Kael'rens who survived the genetic wars were the ones who could endure alone. We bred for it, selected for it, made isolation our strength. She looked at her crown. But isolation is a poison that takes generations to kill. Kael'ren appeared in the doorway, his posture rigid, but his voice unsteady. Your Majesty, I must confess something. The genetic defect you carry, the one that killed Princess Lyra Esh, I carry it too. Aliraeth's head snapped up. What? I am your cousin, third line of succession. I have known since I was 17. I volunteered for your personal guard because I thought, if I could protect you, I could prove the defect did not matter, that we could still be strong. His voice broke. I was wrong. We were always dying. We just died alone. The implications hit like thunder. If Kael'ren carried the gene, if he'd hidden it for years, how many others had done the same? Emma burst in. I found who sabotaged the medical systems. Dr. Vec. He's been working with Threnok. They wanted to force Aliraeth into immediate stasis without her consent before she could make any official statements about the genetic crisis. Where are they now? Diplomatic immunity hearing. Vex claiming he was protecting the Queen from herself. Emma's anger was cold and precise. Threnhak's already calling for emergency council powers to make medical decisions on her behalf. That's not protection, Matthew said. That's a coup. Aliraeth stood slowly, her entire body trembling. They want to bury this. Bury me. Lock me away and pretend the royal bloodline is still perfect. Your Majesty, Kael'ren said, what are your orders? She looked at Matthew. You asked me once what I feared most. It was not death, it was dependence. Being kept alive by others, beholden to their mercy, no longer in control. She took a breath. But I think I feared the wrong thing. My sister died alone because we valued pride over life. I will not let that happen again. What do you need? Matthew asked. To get to my ship. To enter stasis on my own terms. to live long enough to change what killed Lyra. She met his eyes. I need you to carry me one more time. The ship's in orbit. Even if I get you to the shuttle, the trip could kill me. I know. And you're asking anyway? I am begging, Aliraeth said quietly, because I finally understand what my sister knew, that living dependent on kindness is better than dying alone with pride. Emma stepped forward. Matt, you can't. Your heart won't survive the stress, the altitude change alone. I know. Then don't do this, please. Let someone else. There is no one else, Matthew said. He looked at Aliraeth. When do we leave? 2 hours. That gives me time to make one last official statement. But Threnok had other plans. The counselor appeared with a full security detail, his expression carved from stone. Your Majesty, by order of the Emergency Council, you are hereby placed under protective custody pending medical evaluation. Please come quietly. I refuse. Then you will be moved by force. Threnok nodded to his guards. Take her. They moved forward, and Kelrin stepped between them and the Queen, weapon raised. No one touches her. Stand down, guardsmen. That is an order. I answer to my Queen, Kelrin said, not to a council that values politics over life. The tension shattered when Aliraeth did something unthinkable. She reached for Matthew's hand and held it in front of everyone, her fingers laced with his. Counselor Threnok, she said, her voice carrying the weight of 30 years of royal authority. You want to know if I am fit to lead, if I am strong enough, if the defect has compromised my judgment. Your Majesty, I am answering. I was taught that strength meant standing alone, that accepting help was failure, that touching another in need was debasement. Her grip on Matthew's hand tightened. But this human, this supposedly weak and emotional creature, carried me when I fell, nearly died for it, and asked for nothing in return. She raised their joined hands. If that is weakness, then our culture has been worshipping the wrong thing for 300 years. Threnok's face contorted. You are not well. This human has clearly influenced. Do not tell me I am not well. Aliraeth's power flared, true and terrible, and every guard in the room staggered. I have been unwell my entire life, and you know what makes it worse? Pretending otherwise, dying slowly while everyone watches and calls it strength. She released Matthew's hand and walked toward Threnok, every step costing her visibly. You want to protect the royal bloodline? Then help me save it. Not with lies and isolation, but with the truth. We are dying, Counselor, all of us, and we will continue dying until we learn what this human knows. What does he know? Aliraeth looked back at Matthew. That carrying someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. She collapsed mid-sentence. This time, 3 people caught her. Matthew, Emma, and Kelrin, all of them holding her up together. They carried her back to medical together, an odd trinity of species and intention. Emma coordinated with shaking hands, while Kelrin cleared the path, and Matthew focused on the simple mechanics of one foot in front of the other. His heart monitor screaming protests, his body echoed. Dr. Vec was gone, escorted out by human security. The Kelrin medical staff stood frozen, watching their queen being carried by the very people their culture taught them to dismiss. Emma got her stabilized on monitoring equipment. The readings were worse. 43 hours until critical system failure. Orbital transport required 12 hours minimum to reach the stasis ship. The math was brutal and simple. She has to leave now, Emma said. Matt, I'm sorry, but you can't. I'm driving her. You'll die. Probably. Emma grabbed his shoulders, her professionalism finally shattering. I have watched too many good people throw themselves away for duty, for honor, for stupid noble reasons that sound great until there's a body bag. I will not watch you do it too. Then don't watch. Damn it, Matt, her voice cracked. She doesn't want you to die for her. She said so, explicitly, multiple times. Matthew looked at Aliraeth, unconscious on the bed, her face peaceful for the first time since he'd met her. "I know." "Then why?" "Because someone has to show them it's possible. To carry someone and survive it. To need help and keep living. If I don't take her, they'll sedate her, ship her unconscious, and she'll wake up in a cage. And if you die trying, then at least she wakes up free." Aliraeth's eyes opened. "No." Everyone turned. "No," she repeated, her voice stronger. "I order you not to take me. Stay here. Live. Let them take me however they wish." "Can't do that. I am your queen." "You're someone who fell," Matthew said. "And I'm someone who carries. That's all this is." It is not all this is." Aliraeth sat up too fast, wincing. "You speak of duty, but this is suicide. You have a failing heart. The altitude change, the stress, the physical exertion of moving me into the shuttle alone could kill you within minutes. I will not have your death on my conscience." "Then I'll make it easy." Matthew moved closer. "You decided for me when you fell. When you looked at me with those eyes and tried to wave me away even though you were dying. You made a choice that pulled me in. Now I'm making mine. I am ordering you. You can't order someone to abandon you when they've already decided to stay." Aliraeth's power flared, sudden and desperate. Matthew felt it crash over him like a wave, fear so deep it tasted like drowning, terror so complete his knees actually buckled. "Leave!" Her voice carried the weight of neural authority that could break wills. "Forget me. Walk away. You don't care about me. You never did. This means nothing. I mean nothing. Go!" Matthew's vision grayed. His heart monitor flatlined for 3 seconds. Emma screamed. Kylran grabbed him as he fell, and Matthew, choking on projected fear that told him he was worthless, that this was pointless, that he should run and never look back, said through clenched teeth, "I've already died carrying people. You're not different. You're just the one I'm dying for today." The power cut off like a severed wire. Aliraeth stared at him, her silver eyes wide with horror. "What have I done?" "Your Majesty," Kylran said quietly, "you just tried to save someone by hurting them." "I was trying to save him. By making him hate himself for caring, by forcing him to feel worthless for choosing kindness." Kylran helped Matthew to a chair. "That is what we were taught, that care is weakness, that connection is failure, that the only way to protect someone is to push them away." So Aliraeth's face crumpled. For the first time in 30 years, in front of witnesses with no protocol to hide behind, the Queen of the Kelrans cried. Not elegant tears, not photogenic grief, ugly, choking sobs that shook her entire body. "I killed her," she gasped. "Lyra Esh begged me to hold her hand when she was dying, and I didn't. I stood 3 meters away and watched her cry alone, because I thought that was strength. Because I thought touching her would make me weak." Emma handed her tissues. Kylran stood frozen, watching his queen break. "She died reaching for me," Aliraeth continued, "and I let her. I let my little sister die alone because I was too proud to admit I loved her more than I loved our stupid, cruel culture." Matthew, still recovering from the neural assault, managed to stand. He walked to her bed, sat on the edge, and did something no one had done to a Kelran queen in 3 centuries. He hugged her. Aliraeth stiffened, her body rigid with shock. Then, slowly, like ice melting, she collapsed against him, her face pressed into his shoulder, her hands gripping his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a dissolving world. "I'm sorry," she whispered into his shoulder. "I'm so sorry. For her, for you, for everything we've done to ourselves. I know. I don't want you to die. I know that too." "Then don't go." Matthew held her carefully, feeling how fragile she was beneath the perfect exterior. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to drive you to the shuttle. Emma's going to ride in the back with portable medical equipment. Kylran's going to clear the route. And you're going to stay conscious and talk to me the entire way so I know you're still alive. And if your heart fails? Then Emma restarts it. Matt, Emma said, that's not a plan, that's a prayer. TT, you got a better one? Silence. Then Kalerin spoke, his voice rough. I will drive. Everyone turned. I carry the same defect, Kalerin continued. I am expendable. Let me take the risk. You're not expendable, Matthew said, and she needs you alive. She's going to need guards who understand what she's trying to change. Then what do you propose? I propose, Matthew said, looking at Alira Heth's tear-stained face, that we all survive this, together, the way humans do things. Humans die too, she whispered. Yeah, but we don't die alone. Alira Heth pulled back, wiping her eyes with shaking hands. She looked at Emma. Can you keep him alive? Emma's expression was bleak. I can try. Trying is all humans ever do, Matthew said, but we're really good at it. Shirana Alira Heth looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached up, touched his face with trembling fingers, and said in broken English, I am sorry. Please not die. I'll do my best. Your best got you here with broken heart. Matthew smiled. Exactly. Imagine what I can do when I'm really motivated. Threnok appeared in the doorway with armed guards. This ends now. Her Majesty is being transported immediately under Council authority. Kalerin's weapon came up faster than thought. Take one more step and find out what happens when someone who's already dying has nothing left to lose. The standoff lasted 5 seconds. Then Alira Heth stood, swaying, her power radiating outward in waves that made everyone in the room step back. Counselor Threnok, you wanted to protect our civilization. You wanted to preserve our strength, our pride, our isolation. She walked toward him, each step costing her everything. But you have forgotten something crucial. A civilization that cannot admit weakness is already dead. It just hasn't fallen yet. She stopped directly in front of him. I am going to that ship. I am going with the human who carried me. And when I wake from stasis, I am going to change everything you believe in. Not because I am weak, but because I am finally strong enough to admit I need help. Your Majesty, please. Dismissed. Threnok stared at her. Then, slowly, he bowed and left. When the room cleared, Alira Heth collapsed back onto the bed. How long do we have? Emma checked readings. 38 hours. We need to leave in 6 to have any margin for complications. Then, we leave in 6, Matthew said. Matt, your heart is still beating. Let's see how long we can keep that going. Alira Heth caught his hand. If you die saving me, I will never forgive you. If I don't try, I'll never forgive myself. She squeezed his fingers. Then we are both doomed to be unforgiving. Welcome to being human, Matthew said. We're all doomed here. We just hold hands while we fall. Emma made calls, not official ones, not through diplomatic channels. She called people who owed Matthew favors, people he'd saved, people who remembered what it meant when someone carried you through the worst day of your life. Within 3 hours, the parking garage had become a field hospital. Martinez, former Marine medic, showed up with a portable defibrillator. Heard Hale's doing something stupid again. Terminal stupid this time, Emma said. Then he'll need backup. Martinez started setting up equipment. What's the scenario? 12-hour drive to orbital shuttle. High altitude. Patient critical. Driver has documented heart failure. Jesus. Anyone try talking him out of it? Everyone. And? You know Matt. Martinez smiled grimly. Yeah, I do. He tested the defibrillator. Stubborn bastard carried me 4 clicks with a bullet in his shoulder. Never said a word, just kept walking. Sarah Chen arrived next, carrying oxygen tanks. Then Dmitri with portable monitoring equipment. Then 6 others, all of them people who'd been carried once and never forgotten. Kalerin watched the humans work, his expression complicated. Your species is inefficient. You should simply send your strongest, your best equipped. We're sending our most motivated, Emma replied. Different thing. The Queen noticed something, Kaelrin said quietly. In that elevator when Matthew first met her, she told me later that his heart was failing even then. She could feel it through her neural sensitivity, and he still chose to work, to drive, to be useful despite the pain. That's just Matt. No, that is humanity. Kaelrin touched his chest again. We Kaelrins are taught to hide our flaws, to present perfection. But you humans wear your broken hearts openly and keep working anyway. I do not understand it, but He paused. I think I envy it. You want to help? I want to learn what it means to carry someone when you are also falling. In her suite, Elira Eth prepared for the journey. She'd removed every piece of royal regalia except a simple silver band on her finger, a private memorial to Lyra Esh she'd worn hidden for 30 years. Matthew found her sitting by the window watching the sunset paint the desert orange and gold. 6 hours, he said. I know. She didn't turn. I have been composing my last official statement in case I do not survive. You'll survive. You cannot promise that. No, but I can promise I'll do everything possible to make it true. Elira Eth was quiet for a moment. Then she held out her hand, palm up. Matthew took it, feeling how cold her skin had become. Tell me something true, she said. Not comforting, not political. True, Matthew thought. I'm terrified. My heart could stop any time in the next 12 hours. I might die before we even reach the vehicle. And I'm still going because the alternative is worse. What alternative? Living with the knowledge that I could have helped and chose comfort instead. He squeezed her fingers gently. I've made a lot of choices in my life, some good, some terrible. But the ones I regret aren't the times I tried and failed. They're the times I didn't try at all. And if you die trying, then at least I died as myself. Elira Eth turned to look at him, silver eyes bright. When Lyra Esh was dying, she asked me to sing to her, our mother's lullaby. I told her it was inappropriate for royal blood to sing in public, that it would show weakness. She swallowed hard. She died in silence, and I've carried that silence for 30 years. What was the song? A promise. That no one who falls stays fallen. That there are always hands to lift you. Sing it now. Here? Why not? I'm not royal blood, and I won't tell anyone you showed weakness. Elira Eth smiled, sad and genuine. Then, in a language Matthew didn't understand but felt anyway, she sang. Her voice was rough from disuse, cracking on the high notes, but it carried something deeper than melody. A promise kept too late, an apology to ghosts. When she finished, Matthew realized Emma and Kaelrin were standing in the doorway, both of them silent. That was beautiful, Emma said softly. It was weak, Elira Eth replied. My council would be horrified. Then your council, Martinez said, appearing behind Emma, has shit taste in music. That startled a laugh out of Elira Eth, genuine and surprised. The next hours were controlled chaos. Emma coordinated medical equipment. Martinez briefed Matthew on emergency protocols. Sarah Chen calibrated the oxygen systems. Kaelrin quietly contacted other Kaelrin guards who'd been questioning the old ways. At midnight, Kaelrin made a choice. He walked into the main diplomatic hall where Threnek was holding emergency council sessions, and he removed his helmet in front of everyone. I carry the genetic defect, he said clearly. I have known for 9 years. I am third in line for the throne, and I am dying the same way Princess Lyra Esh died, the same way our queen is dying now. Silence crashed through the room. You are lying, Threnek said, attempting to test me. Right now, I will submit to any medical scan you require. Kaelrin stood straight. I am not the only one. There are others among the guard, among the council, among you, counselor. We hide our weakness because we were taught that admission means death. But the hiding is what kills us. Guardsmen, you are relieved of duty. I quit. Kaelrin removed his rank insignia and placed it on the table. I will escort my queen to safety, not as her guard, as her cousin, as someone who carries the same curse, as someone who finally understands that we are not strong because we stand alone. We are strong because we choose to stand together even when standing costs everything. He turned and walked out. 6 other guards followed him. When Kaelrin returned to the suite, Aliraeth was waiting. She looked at him for a long moment, then pulled him into a hug that violated every protocol they'd both been raised with. "Thank you," she whispered. "You carried me first," Kaelrin replied. "When you admitted weakness in front of the council, when you held that human's hand, you showed me it was possible to be both royal and real." 4 hours before departure, the team assembled in the garage. Matthew looked at the faces around him. Emma with her medical gear, Martinez with the defibrillator, Sarah with oxygen tanks, Dimitri with monitoring equipment, Kaelrin with quiet determination, and Aliraeth, weak but conscious, watching them all. "This is insane," Emma said. "Completely," Matthew agreed. "We're really doing this. Unless someone wants to volunteer a better plan." Silence. "Okay then." Emma loaded equipment into the vehicle. "Let's go save a queen." Aliraeth stepped forward, leaning on Kaelrin. "Before we leave, I need to say something. To all of you." She looked at each face. "My culture taught me that accepting help was surrender, that needing others was failure, that the only way to lead was to stand above, separate, untouchable." She paused, gathering strength. "But you humans, you break every rule I was taught. You fail openly. You need constantly. You touch each other without shame. And somehow, despite all that supposed weakness, you are here, ready to risk everything for someone you barely know, for no reward, no glory, just because I fell and you decided to catch me. That's what we do," Matthew said simply. "I know. And that is what makes you stronger than my entire empire." Aliraeth straightened, using Kaelrin's arm for support. "When I wake from stasis, if I wake, I'm going to change my world. I'm going to teach them what this human taught me." "What's that?" "That the bravest thing you can do is admit you cannot do it alone, and then ask for help anyway." Emma wiped her eyes. Martinez nodded. Sarah adjusted oxygen tanks. Dimitri checked monitors, and Matthew Hale, with his failing heart and his stubborn soul, climbed into the driver's seat. "Everyone ready?" A chorus of affirmatives. "Then let's go home." Aliraeth settled into the passenger seat, Kaelrin beside her. She reached over and took Matthew's hand one more time. "Together?" she asked. "Together," Matthew promised. The vehicle pulled out into the New Mexico night, escorted by humans who knew how to carry impossible weight and aliens who were finally learning. Behind them, Threnak watched from the complex windows, his expression unreadable. Ahead lay 12 hours, 8,000 feet of altitude change, and a shuttle that would either save a queen or witness a sacrifice. Matthew's heart monitor beeped steadily. For now, that was enough. The first hour was deceptively calm. Matthew drove through desert darkness, headlights cutting tunnels through nothing. Emma monitored vitals from the back seat, while Kaelrin kept watch and Aliraeth tried to stay conscious despite her body's increasing demands to shut down. "Talk to me," Matthew said, "about anything." "Hey, the orbital facility is called Ithara Vale," Aliraeth replied, her voice soft. "It means eternal embrace in Old Kelrin, built during the genetic wars as a sanctuary for the damaged. We stopped using it that way 200 years ago. Too much weakness associated with it." "What's it used for now?" "Storage, forgotten things, shameful things." She smiled sadly. "Appropriate, I suppose." Hour 2, the road started climbing. Matthew felt it in his chest immediately, the thinning air making his heart work harder. Emma noticed his breathing change. "Matt, your O2 levels are dropping." "I'm fine." "You're not fine." "Sarah, get him on supplemental oxygen." Can't drive with a mask on. Then pull over and let someone else drive. Emma, we've been over this. And I'm going over it again because your cardiac rhythm just went irregular. Elira turned to look at him, seeing what Emma was seeing. Sweat on his forehead despite the cool air, tension in his jaw, his right hand pressed against his chest between gear shifts. Matthew, she said quietly, please, let Kaelrin drive. He doesn't know the route. I can learn, Kaelrin said, not fast enough. Matthew took a breath, forced his voice steady. Besides, I promised to get you there. I keep my promises. Hour 3, the first crisis hit. Elira's neural crown, still partially active, surged with erratic power. She gasped, her body going rigid, and Matthew felt the wave of her distress crash through the vehicle like a psychic shockwave. Emma was there immediately, sedative ready, but Elira grabbed her wrist. No sedation. Need to stay awake. Your Majesty, if we don't stabilize you, if you sedate me, I might not wake. Please. Her silver eyes found Matthew's in the rearview mirror. I need to stay awake. To know this is real. That I did not dream someone caring enough to drive through the night. You're not dreaming, Matthew said. I'm right here. We're all right here. Promise? Promise. Her power settled. Barely. Hour 5, they reached the mountain pass. 8,000 feet elevation, air thin enough that Matthew's heart monitor started screaming. Emma made an executive decision and forced an oxygen cannula into his nose. He didn't have the breath to argue. How much further? Elira asked, her own voice barely a whisper. 6 hours. Matthew, your heart cannot sustain 6 more hours of this. Then I'll renegotiate with it. But his heart had stopped negotiating. Hour 6, it happened. Matthew's vision grayed at the edges. His hands went numb on the wheel. The monitor flatlined with a sound like a scream, and the vehicle swerved as his body went slack. Emma was moving before the vehicle stopped, pulling Matthew back, starting compressions. Martinez! Defibrillator! Now! Kaelrin grabbed the wheel, keeping them on the road, while Martinez charged the device. Elira tried to unbuckle, to help, but her body wouldn't obey. Matthew, she called. Matthew, please, you promised. You said you would stay. Matthew! Emma shocked him once, twice, 3 times. The monitor stayed flat. Damn it, Hale, don't you dare! Emma's voice cracked. Don't you dare die on me, not like this, not for this! Elira understood then what was happening, that the human who'd carried her was dying, that his stubborn, broken heart had finally given up, that she was going to watch another person she cared about slip away while she sat useless and failing. She did the only thing she had left. She used her power, not to project fear or calm or control, but to give. She reached deep into the neural authority that had governed crowds, that had collapsed wills, that had never worked on herself, and she gave Matthew her will to live. The power that should have stayed external flooded inward, bridging the gap between their minds. She felt his heart, felt the muscles struggling and failing, felt the exhaustion that went deeper than tissue, and she wrapped her entire consciousness around it and pulled. Live, she commanded, not as a queen, as someone who needed him to. Live because I cannot do this without you. Live because you showed me what strength really means. Live because I am asking. Live because please. The monitor beeped. Once, twice. Matthew gasped, his eyes flying open, and Emma sobbed with relief as she checked vitals. He's back. Rhythm's weak, but stable. Jesus Christ, Matt. Matthew tried to speak, managed only a wheeze. Elira's power released, and she slumped back in her seat, her own vitals crashing from the exertion. Everyone okay? Kaelrin asked from the driver's seat, hands tight on the wheel. Define okay, Emma muttered. Matt's alive, but shouldn't be. The Queen just used power that should have killed her. We're still 4 hours from the shuttle, and I'm running out of medical miracles. Then we do it the human way, Martinez said. We improvise. They switch positions, Calrin driving, Emma monitoring both patients, Martinez ready with the defibrillator, Sarah managing oxygen for 2 people now, Dimitri calculating dosages and timelines and impossible odds. And Matthew, conscious but barely, reached back to find Elira Eth's hand. She took it, her grip weak but intentional. "You pulled me back," he whispered. "You pulled me first. I was simply returning the favor. Thought your power didn't work on yourself. It does not. But apparently, it works when I am terrified of losing someone." She managed to smile. "You have corrupted me with human emotion." "Good." Hour 8, the Kelrin ship appeared on scanners, Ithera Vale, hanging in low orbit like a promise. Emma coordinated with the medical team aboard, prepping them for emergency stasis. Hour 9, they reached the shuttle landing site, a flat stretch of desert marked with approach lights. The shuttle itself was a work of biological engineering, all curved surfaces and bioluminescent panels, more grown than built. Getting Elira Eth from the vehicle to the shuttle required all of them. Matthew tried to stand to carry her one more time, but his legs wouldn't hold. Calrin and Martinez did it together, while Emma supported Matthew and Sarah coordinated the medical handoff. At the shuttle entrance, Elira Eth stopped them. "Wait. Please." They lowered her carefully, letting her stand with support. She looked at Matthew, at Emma, at all the humans who'd risked everything. "I do not know how to thank you," she said. "Don't thank us," Emma replied. "Just live. Change your world. Make this mean something." "I will. I promise I will." Elira Eth looked at Matthew. "And you, stubborn human who would not let me fall, who carried me when your own body was breaking, who showed me that strength is not isolation. She stopped, struggling with words. Then she pulled Matthew close and whispered in his ear, "If I survive this, I am coming back for you, to walk beside you, to learn more of this strange human courage, to see if someone who has been alone her entire life can learn to be accompanied." Matthew smiled. "I'll be here. You better be. I am not losing another person I care about to stupid sacrifice. Then we're even, because I'm not losing a stubborn alien queen to stupid pride." They helped her into the shuttle. Calrin went with her, his hand on her shoulder. The doors sealed with a hiss of pressurization. The shuttle lifted, silent and strange, rising into the pre-dawn sky. Matthew watched it go, Emma supporting him, until it was just another star among stars. "She's going to make it," Emma said. "Yeah, she is. And you?" Matthew's heart monitor beeped erratically but persistently. "I'm going to need a new job. Pretty sure the diplomatic service has concerns about drivers who die mid-shift." Emma laughed, exhausted and relieved. "You're impossible. I'm human. It's basically the same thing." Martinez started packing equipment. Sarah coordinated cleanup. Dimitri filed reports. The team that had carried a queen across impossible distance began the simple work of going home. Matthew sat on the hood of the vehicle, watching the sky lighten, and thought about a woman who'd learned to ask for help and a culture that was about to discover what happened when its foundations cracked. His heart hurt, but it was still beating. And somewhere in orbit, in a stasis chamber aboard the Ithera Vale, Queen Elira Eth Kale dreamed of desert sunrises and the human who'd taught her that falling wasn't the end. It was just the moment before someone caught you. Matthew woke in the hospital 4 days later. Emma was asleep in the chair again, her head on the edge of his bed, still wearing the same clothes from the shuttle run. Someone had brought her coffee that had gone cold hours ago. He tried to sit up. Failed. Tried again. Failed worse. "Stop moving, you idiot," Emma mumbled without opening her eyes. "You died twice. Your heart is held together with synthetic mesh and prayer. Moving is not recommended." "How long?" 4 days. You've been in and out. Mostly out." She finally looked up, eyes red-rimmed. "The doctors wanted to ship you to orbital medical. I told them you'd hate that, So we compromised. You get to stay here, but you're retired. Officially, permanently. Your carrying people through impossible situations days are over. And the Queen? Emma's face softened. Stable. The stasis worked. She's healing. Slowly but healing. Kelleran's been sending updates. Apparently, the revelation about the genetic defect caused a political earthquake. Half the council resigned. The other half is scrambling to rewrite 3 centuries of cultural doctrine. Good. Threnok's in exile. Voluntarily. He released a statement saying he'd spent too long protecting a system that was already dying and needed time to understand what living actually meant. Emma shook her head. Even your antagonists are getting redemption arcs. It's disgustingly hopeful. Matthew managed a weak smile. What about you? Me? I got promoted. Apparently, coordinating a midnight medical miracle that saved a visiting dignitary looks good on performance reviews. Who knew? She squeezed his hand. But I'm also leaving the diplomatic service, starting a new program, Human Kelleran Medical Cooperation, teaching them that asking for help isn't weakness, teaching us that not every problem requires a human dying to solve it. Sounds like you. Sounds like what you taught me. The days blurred together after that. Physical therapy, cardiac monitoring, visitors who came to see the man who'd driven a queen to safety and lived to regret it. Martinez brought terrible coffee. Sarah brought flowers. Dimitri brought medical journals highlighting everything Matthew should never do again. On the 8th day, Kelleran appeared. He wore civilian clothes now. No uniform, no rank insignia. Just simple robes that looked almost comfortable. The human who carries, he said, and it sounded like a title now, a term of respect. Just Matthew, I think you stopped being just anything the moment you picked up my queen. Kelleran sat carefully. I came to thank you, and to tell you what happened after you left. I heard about the council. The council is just politics. What matters is what happened next. Kelleran leaned forward. Her Majesty woke from stasis 3 days ago. First thing she did was demand an open broadcast. No protocols. No filters. She appeared before our entire species and told them everything. About Lyra Esh. About the genetic defect. About you carrying her when she fell. How did they react? Chaos, horror, denial, anger. Everything you would expect when a foundation cracks. Kelleran smiled slightly. And then something unexpected. People started sharing their own weaknesses, their own hidden failures, their own moments of needing help and being too afraid to ask. Within 48 hours, we had thousands of Kellerans admitting to genetic disorders, mental health struggles, physical limitations they'd been hiding for decades. She started a revolution. She started a healing. And she credits you. Says a human with a broken heart showed her that surviving broken is better than dying perfect. Matthew was quiet. Then, is she okay? Really okay? She will never be cured. The genetic damage is permanent. She will need assistance, accommodation, acceptance of her limitations. Kelleran met his eyes. But she is alive, and she is changing what that means for all of us. 3 weeks later, Matthew was released to outpatient care. He returned to his small house in Santa Fe, the one with the garden he never had time to tend, and the porch that needed repair, and the life he'd put on hold to carry other people's weight. Emma helped him move back in. You're really retiring? I'm really dying. Slowly. The mesh will hold for a while, but my carrying days are definitely over. Or Awesome, what will you do? Matthew looked at his garden, at the weeds and the potential. I think I'll learn to grow things. See what happens when I stay still long enough to watch something besides myself break down. Sounds peaceful. Sounds terrifying. But maybe that's okay. Emma hugged him carefully. You're going to be fine, Matt. Eventually, if I live that long. You better. The Queen made me promise to keep you alive until she could visit. She said she was coming? She said, and I quote, I am not finished learning from the human who would not let me fall. Tell him to wait." Matthew smiled. "I can do that." Emma left. The house settled into silence. Matthew made coffee, tended his garden, learned the rhythm of a life lived at rest. His heart monitor beeped steadily. His body complained about everything, and he felt more alive than he had in years. 1 year later, on a morning that started like any other, a ship descended from cloudless sky. It landed in the desert, 1/2 mile from Matthew's house, silent and strange and utterly expected. Matthew watched it from his porch, coffee in hand, and waited. Hilarieth walked across the sand alone. No guards, no crown, no protocols, just a woman in simple robes, moving carefully but steadily, her silver eyes locked on the human who'd carried her home. She stopped at his porch steps. They looked at each other for a long moment. "You waited," she said. "I promised. How is your heart? Still broken? Still beating? You?" "The same." She smiled. "I came to walk with you, to see your garden, to learn what you do with your days now that you are not saving foolish queens." "I grow tomatoes. It's very boring. I have lived my entire life in excitement and isolation. Boring sounds extraordinary." Matthew stood, his body protesting, and offered his hand. Hilarieth took it, her fingers warm now, her grip steady. They walked through his garden together, talking about small things, about soil and weather and the stubborn nature of weeds, about political reforms and cultural shifts and the slow work of changing minds, about Calrin, who'd become a leader in the new movement, about Emma's medical program that was bridging 2 species through shared vulnerability. "I established something," Hilarieth said as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "A new protocol, required learning for all Calrin children. They must spend time with another species, learn to ask for help, learn to give it, learn that dependence is not defeat." "What do you call it?" "The Hale Protocol." She glanced at him. "I hope you do not mind. It seemed appropriate." "I'm honored. What does it teach them?" "That strength is not measured by what you can do alone. It is measured by what you are willing to do together." She paused. "That when someone falls, you do not calculate the cost of helping. You simply help, and trust that others will do the same when you fall." Matthew was quiet. Then, "Your people are lucky to have you. Now my people are learning that luck has nothing to do with it, that survival requires choosing compassion even when it costs everything, especially then." She looked at the sunset, at the gold and orange painting the desert sky. "I come here sometimes to remember what you taught me." "What's that?" "That I never needed to be perfect. I just needed to be real and willing to be carried when I could not stand." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and the first stars appeared. Somewhere in orbit, the Ithra Veil held its secrets and its healing. Somewhere in the galaxy, a culture was rewriting its foundations because one human refused to let someone fall. Somewhere in the space between loneliness and connection, 2 people who should never have met learned what it meant to walk together. "Will you come back?" Matthew asked. "Every year," Hilarieth promised, "to walk with you, to see what you have grown, to remember that falling is not the end." "What is it then?" She smiled, silver eyes reflecting starlight. "It is the moment before someone catches you, and the beginning of learning you do not have to stand alone." Matthew's heart monitor beeped steadily. Hilarieth's neural crown pulsed with quiet power. 2 broken people, 2 different species, sitting on a porch in the New Mexico desert, neither of them perfect, both of them real, both of them learning that the bravest thing you can do is admit you cannot carry the world alone, and then ask someone to help you anyway. In the years that followed, the story spread, not as propaganda, not as legend, but as truth. The queen who fell and the human who carried her. The culture that valued isolation and the species that valued connection. The moment when everything changed because someone chose compassion over comfort. Kelran children learned the Hail Protocol. Human diplomats taught it. And slowly, carefully, two species that had barely understood each other began to build something new. Not based on strength, not based on perfection, but based on the simple, revolutionary idea that needing help was human, and being human was exactly what the galaxy needed. Matthew Hale lived another 7 years. His heart, that stubborn, failing muscle, kept beating through gardening and visits and quiet moments of peace. When it finally stopped, he was sitting on his porch with Emma and Eliraeth, watching the sunset, talking about tomatoes. He died as he'd lived, surrounded by people he'd carried, and carried by people who'd learned from him. At his funeral, Eliraeth stood before humans and Kelrans alike and said only this: "He taught us that strength is not what you lift. It is what you refuse to let fall. And because of him, my entire species is learning to catch each other." She placed a silver band on his coffin, the same one she'd worn for Lyra Esh. "You carried me home," she said softly. "Now I carry you forward. In every reform, every protocol, every child who learns that asking for help is not weakness." She stepped back, silver eyes bright with unshed tears. "Humanity," she said, and her voice carried the weight of a queen and the warmth of a friend. "Fuck, yeah." The message on Matthew's tombstone was simple. He carried people, that's all, that's everything. And beneath it, in Kelran's script that translated to a promise kept across species, no one who falls stays fallen. There are always hands to lift you. Because that's what humans do. We fall. We fail. We break. And then we reach for each other anyway. Not because we're perfect, but because we're human. And that, in a galaxy of isolation and pride and strength measured by standing alone, is the greatest revolution of all. In the end, humanity wasn't defined by strength, technology, or dominance, but by the stubborn refusal to let someone fall alone. We break, we hesitate, we're terrified. And then we choose anyway. Not because it's heroic, because it's human. So here's the uncomfortable question the universe leaves us with. When someone collapses in front of you, what rules do you hide behind? What pride do you protect instead of reaching out? And if you were the one on the ground, who would you allow to carry you? Because maybe the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves isn't "I am weak," but "I don't need anyone." If this story stayed with you until the end, write "carry" in the comments, so we know you walked this distance with us. Tell us which city or planet you're watching from. If this story made you think, laugh, tear up, or whisper, "Damn, humans," subscribe. Not as a click, but as a way of staying together. Like, hype, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that being held is not failure. And when the final card appears, walk with us into the next story, because the universe is big, confusing, occasionally absurd, and a lot easier when we don't face it alone. After all, humanity's greatest superpower isn't carrying worlds, it's carrying each other, complaining loudly the whole way.